Okay, we can get started. Okay, good evening. Welcome to our Gita chapter 8. Very interesting chapter. Totally different chapter. So as always, we will start with some chanting because we have Anu with us. So when we have a person who can chant nicely, why don't we listen to her chanting for some time? So Anu, probably you could chant from verse 9 to 13.
Okay. Om Shri Paramatmane Namaha Atha Ashtamodhyayah Akshara Parabrahma Yogaha Kavim Puranamanushasitaram Anoraniyam Samanusmaretyaha Sarvasya Dhataramachintya Rupam Adityavarnam Tamasah Parastat Prayanakale Manasachalena Bhaktya Yukto Yoga Balena Chaiva Dhruvormadhye pranamaveshya samyak satam param purushamupaiti divyam yadaksharam veda vido vadanti vishanti yatyatayo vitarakaha yadikchanto brahmacharyam charanti tatte padam sangrahena pravakshe सर्वद्वाराणि संयम्य मनोहृदि निरुध्य च मूर्ध्याधायात्मनः प्राणम् आस्थितो योगधारणाम् ओमित्येकाक्षरं ब्रह्मा व्याहरन् मामनुस्मरन् यः प्रयातित्यजन् देहं स याति परमां गतिम् अनन्यचेताः सततं यो मां स्मरति नित्यशः तस्याहं सुलभः पार्थ नित्ययुक्तस्य योगिनः.
Thank you. Very good. Very good. So we will do a 5-minute recap, connect where we stopped, and we will continue. We will spend another 3 minutes on verse 10, and then we will go to verse 11, 12, and if possible, we will try to see 13. So we just need to have the clarity again. The theme of this chapter is Upasana, Ishvara Upasana. The goal of Ishvara Upasana is to gain the stability of the mind. That's why the chapter opens up with some questions by Arjuna. He asked several questions. And one question was, how do you keep this equanimity of the mind or the stability of mind at the time of death? So Krishna said, whatever is your mental makeup or the state of your mind during the last period of your life, that is going to determine the gati of your soul or the direction of your soul, the traveling of the soul. So that point is established. And then Krishna said, it is not possible for anybody to gain a good state just by beginning at the end. So Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu ma manusmaradhyuthecha. He said, therefore, start right from the beginning. You practice Karma Yoga and Upasana Yoga. By practicing Karma Yoga and Upasana Yoga, one is going to gain stability of the mind and purity of the mind. And if you are able to realize that knowledge, once you have the stability and purity of the mind, you are going to get Jivan Mukti, meaning you are getting the self-realization while you are alive. And if you don't get it, and if you are in the very advanced state, what is going to happen to such a person? And if you are in the beginning stages of the path, what is going to happen to such a person? Or if you are not at all interested in any of these things, your interest is something else, what is going to happen to these people? So we saw, right, different gatis of the soul or the self-realization. So let's recap all of that once again, and then we will continue our discussion of verse 10. So if a person is self-realized, what is going to happen after the death? The soul do not travel, because the subtle body will be dismantled, because nobody, you're not even identified with the subtle body. So there is no need for travel, because it is like I am not identified with that subtle body. So for a Jivan Mukta Purusha, what is going to happen is once his body dies, the subtle body won't exist. It will not travel. So we saw, right, the subtle body can come to an end only when the self-realization happens, or only at the time of the pralaya. That is the two cases. If the subtle body goes to a pralaya, the causal body survives, and the causal body will get a new subtle body in the next prabhava. So we talked about all these things. But if you get self-realized, the subtle body and causal body and the physical body, everything will be stopped at the time of the death, because your identity is with the cosmic consciousness. So that is the best case scenario. And this is called Jivan Mukti or Moksha. Now, the second category of the people who are advanced yogis, means predominantly the people who follow Raja Yoga, the Patanjali system of yoga, or the Kundalini yoga, who learn the art of meditation and pranayama in a very good manner. Such people, they gain the purity of the mind, they gain the stability of the mind, but the knowledge has not yet final. They are still an upasaka, not a self-realized person yet. Such people, when they die, what happens is there is an opportunity for them to take a direction or a path of the soul called Shuklagati, and that is going to take them to another plane of existence where they will be given this teaching by Brahmaji, means Puranically Brahmaji, or on a highly spiritual term, you will be introduced this teaching by the God or the cosmic forces. So you will gain that knowledge through that passage or that path, and then you get the mukti, and that is called Krama Mukti. So the self-realization, there are two paths. One is called Jivan Mukti, the other one is called Krama Mukti. So these are the two scenarios. The third scenario is a beginning yogi. He is committed to yoga, but he has not yet reached the purity of the mind or the stability of the mind yet. That person, when he passes away, what happens is he will be reborn into this world, but in a conducive environment where he can continue his practice. This is explained in chapter 6. Remember, the word Krishna used, yoga prashta, a person who started the practice of yoga but not yet reached the final destination. So that person is in this stage. So this is the third scenario. And the fourth scenario is a person who is not at all interested in anything. His focus is money, or his focus is something else. His focus is whatever is his choice of field, whatever it's that. What happens is, predominantly what dominated his mind, his soul will take that direction. So these are the different possibilities described by Krishna of a soul. And then he came back and started talking about these two cases. One is the Jivan Mukti and the other one is Krama Mukti. So we started discussing verse 10 and we'll continue that. But before that, any questions? Okay, great. So let's go.
Rajeshji, the Shukla Gati you told, no? That it will be in a plane of some kind of a plane where Brahmaji is going. Is that what we call it as Pitru Lokam?
Not
No?
Exactly. That is a different concept.
Plane.
Yeah.
Okay.
See the.
Remember we talked about it a while ago and we couldn't figure out what it was.
Yeah. No, I'll explain that in next 2-3 classes when we start discussing this Krishna Gati and Shukla Gati. We will discuss all those. This is not a purely Vedantic topic, but definitely we will bring that in and discuss.
Sure.
Yeah, it's there.
So it is Brahma Logam you're talking, right?
Yeah, it's the Brahma Lokam, or one. It means only a higher plane of existence, a plane of existence where you will be given this teaching.
Okay.
Again, as I said, Shankaracharya himself is not a big fan of this approach. And in some commentary, he said that there is nobody who can come back and testify this. This is only a matter of faith. This is exactly like people saying that if you follow this, you will go to heaven. It's a non-verifiable belief. We can call like that, right? It's a non-verifiable belief. So I was looking at the term of this term, belief. In one interpretation of the term belief is a hypothesis or an assumption you make, which is subjected to correction upon verification. And when you say that you go to Brahmaloka or you go to heaven, when that verification can happen? Only after death. So there is no yogi who came back and explained this is I have gone through. Whereas Jivan Mukti, there are hundreds of people you can see here. So this is meant for only advanced yogis. Advanced yogis means the one who mastered in Raja Yoga, not the so-called yoga teachers here. It is the people who mastered Raja Yoga, the Patanjali system of yoga, or the Kundalini yoga. I'll just see. In this verse, I'll tell you how complicated it is. It is not practically easy to give up your life in this manner. So we will discuss this.
Okay.
So let's start with verse 10, which we saw last time. But just to get a little bit more clarity, we will see. Anu, could you please chant?
प्रयाणकाले मनसाचलेन भक्त्या युक्तो योगबलेन चैव भ्रुवोर्मध्ये प्राणमावेश्य सम्यक् सतं परं पुरुषमुपैति दिव्यम्.
This is the verse we saw last time. It tells Prayanakale Manasa Achalena. Prayanakale means your death. So what you are doing is you're giving up your life at your will. You have that skill. So I don't know how many of you read. Typically, we do not have control over our involuntary activities. You have no control over your blood pressure. You have no control over your heart beating. You have no control over your so many organs. Thank God. Otherwise, if I forget to breathe, what is going to happen? So these are programmed in our system, and typically a person do not have control over these involuntary systems of our human body. But it is a fact. It's a fact that so many yogis have demonstrated their control over this involuntary systems. Do you know who first went to the lab and proved it officially, scientifically? A modern yogi has done.
Swami Rama.
Swami Rama. So you can Google Swami Rama's clinical experiment. You will get it. He has gone to the lab and he demonstrated his control over these involuntary functions. So that is just an indication about this verse. So this verse tells that a person who has mastered Raja Yoga, a person who has an unnatural or maximum control over his mental activities. To be specific, Krishna calls out dharana, concentration. Second thing is pranayama. A person who has a lot of pranayama skills, a person who has a lot of dharana skills, such people have control over their involuntary activities. And what they can do is they can eject their prana at their will. So Krishna here tells prayana kale. Prayana kale means at the time of death. What the first thing they will do is manasa achalena. Achala means what? Stable. So such yogis when they are about to leave their life, they may decide, okay, I'm going to leave my body. At that time, what happens? You and I will be crying, but these yogis can keep an immense stability of their mind. Then what happens? What they will do? Bhaktya yukto yoga balena chaiva. And they have an immense devotion and faith on God. How? How can they keep this stability? That is what? Yoga balena, with the strength of your yoga, with the strength of their pranayama, with their strength of their Ashtanga yoga is what is being taught here. With the strength of their dharana. Then what happened? Pruvo marthye pranamaveshya samyak. They will bring their prana, life force, to where? To the place where between the eyebrow. In scriptures, they call it is Sushumna Nadi. So in the system of yoga or the Kundalini yoga, they talk about 72,000 nadis. Nadis are not exactly nerves, but per that Kundalini or that Raja Yoga model, you have 72,000 nadis, and you, with your immense strength of yoga or control over your prana, what you do is you bring your prana to this place, and from there you bring that to the top of your head and you leave the body. And when you leave the body somewhere in the head, a small hemorrhage will happen, and that is called Brahma Granthi. If you want to know more details, it is known as Brahma Granthi, and you leave your body. So that is what is being taught here in this particular verse, right? So Bhaktya Yukto Yoga Balena Cha Eva Dhruvo Marthye Pranamaveshya Samyak. And then what happened? Satam Param Purushamupaiti Divyam. That person will reach the Supreme. How? Not directly. He will reach to Brahmaloka. There he will be taught by Brahmaji. And finally, he will reach the Brahmaloka. So, by the sheer strength of yoga and pranayama, he is able to bring his prana to this place, which is the place between your two eyes, and then through the Brahma Granthi, he released the prana, and that prana, because he can able to do that because he has a lot of control over his mind, stability and purity is there, but he has not yet reached the final state, and he will eventually reach the final state. And this is the path of the Krama Mukti. Again, this is not a path defined for people like us. If at all we have a chance, it is the other path, which is the Jivan Mukti. So this is for advanced yogis. So this is not like if you practice 30 minutes meditation every day, this is not possible. This is highly, highly difficult. And at the time of death, you have to keep that, means manasa achalena, a mind that is very stable. Most of the people find it difficult to keep the mind stable at the time of death. Right? This is most of the people, what comes to their mouth at the time of death. Bhunaji, you might be knowing this joke or the story. In Purana, in Tamil Nadu, they give this story. Mother Parvati was so kind of a person. He was about to die. He said, let's go and save this person. And Lord Shiva said, the probability of him remembering the God or his mind was completely on all the other things. So the chances are less. So Parvati said, no, let's try and give him some trigger so that at least he will chant the name of the God now. So Shiva and Parvati came in front of him and stood in front of him. And Shiva said, okay, if he calls Amma, you try to save her. You can save her. Save him. This is joke, okay? This is just interesting. And if you call Appa, I will take care of you. And this person surprisingly said,
He said Ayo, right?
He said Ayyo. That's exactly what he said. This is a joke. It is very hard for a human being to keep his mind stable. Otherwise, he has to start the practice right from the beginning. So, this verse, Krishna talks about this advanced yogis. So, with that, let's move. The next verse is, what is that ultimate destination we are talking? So, this is a very famous verse. And if you can remember this verse, this is very good. I really love this verse. Anu, could you please chant?
यदक्षरं वेदविदो वदन्ति विशन्ति यद्यतयो वीतरागाः यदिच्छन्तो ब्रह्मचर्यं चरन्ति तत्ते पदं संग्रहेण प्रवक्ष्ये.
This is such a beautiful verse. It talks about that final destination we are talking. What is that final destination we are talking? Yadaksharam Veda Vido Vadandi. Yat Aksharam. That ultimate destination is Aksharam. Aksharam means what? It is the ultimate reality or the absolute reality. Mundaka Upanishad defines this Akshara as the absolute reality. It is the ultimate destination. And who talks about that? That is described by Veda with. Veda with means, again, it came from the root with, means to know, knowing, know. The people who knows Veda, the people who understand Veda, the people who see Veda as a pramana. Remember, we talked about this earlier. Veda as a pramana. So those people who consider Veda as a pramana, that people describe about this state. By the way, if you go to Brahmaloka, suppose you go to Brahmaloka in the Kramamukti path, what exactly Brahmaji is going to talk? Nothing more than what we discussed here. He will also say Tattvamasi. That's all. That's a fact. So, Yadaksharam Veda Vido Vadanti. That Akshara, that ultimate reality, absolute reality, described by people who knows the Veda. It's not the people who chant the Veda. A lot of people knows how to chant the Veda, but they don't see Veda as a pramana, or they don't understand the Veda. Not that people. The people who understand Veda as a pramana, so that such people are known as Vedavid. So Yadaksharam Veda Vido Vadanti. Vishanti Yat Vatayo Vi Itaraga. So Yat means Yati here. So Yatayo means Yati. Who is a Yati? Have you ever thought of, means there are some sannyasis are known as Yati, Nitya Chaitanya Yati, like that. What is Yati means?
Effort, trying.
Yeah. Yat, it comes from the root Yat. Yat means effort. Yati means the one who put focused effort. That is the general meaning. But what is the specific meaning? The one who put focused effort on spiritual pursuit. The one whose priority is spiritual progress. For me, the priority is something else, right? Spirituality is only a side business for me. But a person who has taken spirituality as the primary goal, that is what is known as Yati. So that Yati means such focused people who are committed their life for the spiritual path. Vitaraga. So the Yatis with Vitaraga. Vita means free from binding desires. Yatis who are free from binding desires, who means they reach this state. What state? The state of Akshara. Akshara means it is the absolute reality state. So this state, which is going to be means experienced by the people with Kramamukti or Jivan Mukti, that is the state of Akshara or absolute reality, which is described by the people who knows the Veda. The second point is that is the state reached by yatis with committed effort. Then yadischanto brahmacharyam charanti. Lot of people practice brahmacharya, desiring to reach this state or desiring to know the state. So yadischanto, ischa means desired. Yat means that. Desiring what? People committed to brahmacharya. What is brahmacharya? Brahman means what?
Consciousness.
Yeah, consciousness, absolute reality. Charya means what?
In that path.
A conduct or a lifestyle aligning with this absolute reality. A lifestyle that is closer to this reality. So that's all brahmacharya means. There is a lot of other meaning. That's okay, but this is the real meaning. So in this chantyo, so people practice discipline. Like for example, yoga, pranayama, karma yoga, meditation, all these, or prayers, or study of the scriptures, all this will come under brahmacharya. So the people who practice brahmacharya, the people who are committed to brahmacharya, because it's not an easy lifestyle. Following Brahman or aligning with Brahman is not an easy lifestyle. It's a difficult lifestyle. So this people, desiring which state, people follow this brahmacharya. Tate padam sangrahena pravichi. I am going to talk to you about that state, that absolute ultimate destination. So this is a beautiful verse. So yadacharam veda vido vadanti vishanti yat vatayo vitaraga yadischantyo brahmacharyam charanti tate padam sangrahena pravichi. It's beautiful. So now Krishna is going to talk a little bit more about Kramamukti. So let's try to see what is this Kramamukti is. Let me share. Okay. So Anu, could you please stand?
सर्वद्वाराणि संयम्य मनोहृदि निरुध्य च मूर्ध्याधायात्मनः प्राणम् आस्थितो योगधारणम्.
Okay. So these two verses is talking about a yogi's approach. Yogi's approach means an advanced yogi's approach. A yogi who can practice this advanced Raja Yoga technique and who can take the path of Kramamukti. So what exactly he is going to do? Sarva dwarani samyamya. Dwara means whole. Samyamya means controlled. Controlling all the holes of your system. What does that mean?
All the senses?
Exactly. Holes are symbolically representing your sense organs. So how many sense organs are there? 5 sense organs are there, right? Perception. So imagine a state. Imagine a state where your eyes are closed. Imagine that your ears are closed. Imagine your tongue is not tasting anything. Imagine your nose is not registering any smell. It's a meditation. It's a popular meditation technique in some of the scriptures. And imagine that your skin is not registering any sense of touch. Can you imagine that world?
I would be in deep sleep.
No, actually, if you are awake and if you can think about that world. Have you ever thought of this? This is an interesting thought. Your body has how many organs? Thousands of systems are there. Out of that, only through these 5 organs, you are experiencing the whole world. You have complicated systems like heart and kidney and liver and whatnot. But The entire experience is provided by these 5 organs. And one of the yogic practice is withdraw from these sense organs, because if you want to see who you are, you need to be free from all these sensory inputs, at least in the state of meditation. So in the Patanjali system of yoga, there is a step. In that step, you will be trained to withdraw from these sense organs. In deep meditation, you can experience this. Anybody know what exactly is the step Krishna is referring here when you connect this with Patanjali Yoga Sutra?
Tad nitithyasana.
Pratyahara.
Pratyahara.
Pratyahara. Pratyahara means you're withdrawing the sense organs. So sarva dwarani samyamya, controlling all the sense organs. Controlling all the sense organs. So once you control all the sensory input, what you do? Mano hridi niruthyacha. So you put your mind, niruthya. Niruthya means controlled. Your mind is completely controlled using your hridi. Hridi literally here means your intelligence, heart. Heart is not literally means heart. You control your mind using your intellect. That means your mental activities are completely controlled. A state of chitta vritti nirodha. So closing your eyes, closing your sense organs, your sit means this is how the person who is going to approach the Kramamukti. That is what we are talking, right? This is not for us. This is only for the advanced yogis. But what exactly is his step? He is controlling all his sense organs, and then he is controlling the mind through the intellect. And then what is going to do? He is going to bring his prana. Where? His prana at the head. I told you, right? To the Brahma Granthi. He means through the Sushumna Nadi. So with extremely high yoga practice, he is going to bring his prana at the head. And then what happened? Astito yoga dharanam. How? Ben, what he is doing is he put his prana at the top of his head, at the Sushumna Nadi, through intense yoga dharanam. Dharana is a step in the Ashtanga Yoga. Using that dharana, you bring your prana into this state of in your near Brahma Granthi through the Sushumna Nadi. So this is how a person is going to live his life for the Kramamukti. So again, we are talking about an advanced yogi who can leave his prana at his will. And how he is going to do? He is controlling cutting off all the sense organs. With the intellect, he gains complete control over the mind. With that controlled mind, with extreme yoga dharana, means you remember, right? Pratyahara, dhyana, dharana, and samadhi. So dharana is the state of concentration. Using the yogic concentration power, yogic dharana, you bring your prana at the top of your head. So this is what he does. And now Krishna is going to talk about the Om meditation. So let's listen to that. Anu, could you chant?
ओमित्येकाक्षरं ब्रह्मा व्याहरन् मामनुस्मरन् यः प्रयाति त्यजन् देहं स याति परमां गतिम्.
So how this person is going to leave the body? That is what is described in this verse. He tells, Om iti eka aksharam brahma. After bringing the prana to the top of the head, he practices Om meditation. We are going to talk about this a little bit more detail. So Om iti eka aksharam. Eka aksharam. The one syllable Om represents Brahma. That's what it means. The one syllable Om represents Brahma. Vyaharan, he chant that Om mantra, Ma Manuttamam, and he put his concentration completely on that Om chanting. Who he is going to do the Om Upasana. That is why the chapter got means Akshara Brahma Yoga or Taraka Brahma Yoga. So the yogi, remember the state of the yogi. The yogi first cut off all the sense objects by controlling shutting down the sense organs, and then he control his mind through the intellect, using the intellect, and with extreme yoga dharana, by practicing the dharana, he brings his prana to the top of the head, and with that state, he starts upasana of Om. What is that upasana of Om? Om means it represents the absolute reality. It need not be Om. It could be Rama. It could be Krishna. It could be Jesus. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. But he starts his upasana. And then what is going to happen? Yaprayati tyujan deham. Then he will give up the body. So through this practice, through the Brahma Granthi, he will leave his prana out of the body. Then Krishna tells, Sagati param sayati paramam gati. So that person eventually reaches the ultimate destination. Ultimate destination means the state of Brahman. So these two verses talk about the Krama Mukti. So a person who needs to take the path of Krama Mukti, first he sits quietly, he controls his sense organs, and he cut his connection with the world outside. With yoga practice, with his intellect, he controls niruttyacha. He controls the entire mental activity. With that controlled mind, he lifts his prana through the practice of yoga dharana and put the prana at the top of the head. And at that stage, he practices this Om meditation. Om, it is Eka Aksharam. It is one syllable mantra representing Ishvara or the absolute reality. In that meditative state, he leaves the body. And that person will go to Brahmaloka and he gets Krama Mukti. Again, this is a matter of faith, but this is what is being taught by the scriptures. But before that, one thing we need to spend some time here is when he say he is meditating Om, we talked about two types meditation, right? One is meditation as an upasana. The other one is meditation as a nididhyasana. So which category here it belongs to?
Nididhyasana?
No, that is because if it is nididhyasana, you're not seeing your difference between Ishvara. The moment you see Ishvara as something else and meditating upon that, it is an upasana. But Mibiphyasana is something where you're trying to connect with your identity with Ishvara. And if you establish that identity, you don't need the path of Krama Mukti. So when you think about meditation as an upasana, there are two options for such meditation. Some of you might have heard. One is called Pratima, the other one is called Pratika. These two meditation techniques are there. The object of the meditation, because meditation, when you are meditating on something, what exactly you are trying to do? You are sitting and thinking about something. You are trying to put your focus, attention on something. It could be a Lord Shiva, or it could be a flame, or it could be my breathing, or it could be something else. It could be a form of Krishna, or it could be a Shivalinga, it could be a Salagrama. There are hundreds of different objects of meditations are there. All these objects of meditation would be either a Pratima or a Pratika. So what is the difference between a Pratima and a Pratika? Because the scriptures talks about the fact that when you want to meditate, you need an object of meditation, right? And ideally, it is better to have that meditation as Ishvara. And that Ishvara or the God, you're meditating upon God as something outside of you. I may be worshipping him, or I might be thinking of him. This form of meditation, where you're meditating upon God, that is known as alambana. Have you heard of that technical term? Again, this is used in almost all the Upanishads. The Mundaka Upanishad has, the Chandogya Upanishad has, all these Upanishad talks about these alambana. And these alambanas, meaning it is a symbolic, it is a representation of Ishvara, because nobody can put Ishvara in front of you, because it is beyond my imagination, beyond my thinking, beyond my conviction. So only through a symbol I can do that. And the object of that meditation can be either a pratima or a pratika. Pratima means you are trying to meditate Ishvara in a particular form. Form means with hands and legs, with organs, limbs and everything. When you meditate upon Lord Krishna, the form of Lord Krishna, meditate upon Devi, meditate upon Lord Shiva, meditate upon Rama, that is Pratima Upasana. So you are thinking about a form. So if you really look at the Dhyana Shloka, can you think about one Dhyana Shloka? Mekhashyamam Pita Kausteya Vasam Shrivat Sangam Kausuk. I forgot that. I mean, Punyopedam Pundarikaya Daksham Vishnum Vande Sarvalokaikanam.
Correct.
Thyaye Tajanubaham Tritadhanisham Batthapatmasanastam Pitam Vasopasanam Navagalmala. That you are talking about Rama, you are talking about his cloth, you are talking about his Padmasana, sitting in his Padmasana, you are talking about his eyes, you are talking about his hair, you are talking about his weapon. So what happens? Through the words, you are painting a personal form. This is Pratima meditation. Look at every Dhyana Shloka. Sindhura Aruna Vigraham, right? Yeah. Manikya Mauli Spurat. Go through the verses. It's just describing the form of the deity. Every meditation is like that. Any other Dhyana Shloka anybody knows? All the Dhyana Shlokas are like that. Krishna's Dhyana Shloka, Shiva's Dhyana Shloka, Subramania's Dhyana Shloka. All these Dhyana Shloka is going to describe the name and the form and the hands and legs and the hair and the whatnot, even the dress and even the weapons. This is called Pratima Upasana. So you are using a Pratima, a limb, a physical body in the form of an image for your meditation. So you could look at a Vigraha, you could look at a picture, or you could mentally create that image. So these Dhyana Shlokas are composed in brilliantly. If you chant it, this picture will come to your mind. That is the goal. Pratima Upasana. That is one form of meditation. And the second form of meditation is called Pratika. Some people say that, oh, I don't like the personal form of God. No problem. You have Pratikas. Popular examples of Pratika is what? Shivalinga.
Om meditation.
Om meditation is there. If you want a form without Pratima, Shivalinga. Shivalinga is a Pratika. Lim gamayateti, limak gamayateti linga. That from which everything came out. That unto which everything goes back. That is lingam. So it is a symbol, Pratika, representing Ishvara. So you can visualize that. You can visualize a flame, a simple flame. You can visualize a sound, that all Pratika. And out of all these, a Salagrama, right? Some people, these Vaishnavites, they do this Salagrama worship. You pick the Salagrama from a river. You know which river it is, right? In Nepal, there is a river. You go and pick the Salagrama from there. which is very popular in the Vaishnavite tradition.
Kentucky River, right?
Yeah, exactly. Entity. So Salagrama, this type of what you call the Shivalinga, a flame, your own breathing, or out of all that, the ultimate pratika meditation is Om. You can chant Om because it need not be imagined. You can just visualize it. But think of this in two ways. Like, one is you're seeing Om as Brahman and you're trying to understand your identity with that. That is Nididhyasana. Whereas if you use the Om chanting as a meditation, every yoga studio does that, right? Almost every yoga studio ends their practice with Om meditation. And when they do that, we also do that, right? We do Om chant, we chant loudly, we chant mentally, we try to listen Om, we try to see the silence between Om. All that is pratika meditation. So this meditation that is done by this advanced yogi is not a nididhyasana. It's not an ahangraha upasana. There are upasana itself can be two. One is ahangraha upasana. And what we are doing is kind of a pratika meditation. And that meditation, when you meditate, you are separate from God and you are using your mental activities, focusing on an external God. And when you are separated from God, the self-realization is not possible. The self-realization is possible only when you leave your identity and merge your identity with the absolute. That's why we had this discussion last week also. We said when Kali came in front of Kalidasa, when somebody gets the darshan of God, still there is a difference between him and God. He is an upasaka still. So the true spirituality begins when you transcend your identity and get identified with that consciousness. And even the deity also has the same consciousness. When that identity is revealed to you, that time you don't need these Shuklagati or going to Brahmaloka. You get Jivan Mukti. So it is to be noted and it is to be understood that this path taken by these advanced Raja Yogis, that is not self-realization directly. Still, they have to learn. So that is what this verse means.
So why practice it then, Rajesh? Why practice meditation as a upasana and not try to practice as a nididhyasana?
First stage, everybody has to practice it as a upasana. Remember, for gaining knowledge, you need a mental stability. So everybody has to do initially the upasana. Once you have a stable mind and a pure mind, if you can complete your knowledge here in this world itself, you don't need to go to this advanced Raja Yoga technique. But these advanced Raja Yogis, they haven't reached the final destination, but they have complete control over the mind. That is why they try to take this path. Modern times, I haven't seen anybody. As a joke, I was joking last time. I heard a story about this, a joke about this. One yogi was trying to leave his body. The disciples were not seeing this hemorrhage or the breakage of his Brahma Granthi. So they took a coconut and broke his head.
But in our scriptures, are there any examples of people?
Yeah, scriptures, there are examples. Means you talk about a lot of yogis who, even Rama, Lord Rama, they said he left the body by his will. He entered into Sarayu and he did Jala Samadhi, they say. And there are several examples in our scriptures. But again, nobody has talked to a person who has taken this path and they came back. The only person who can testify is an avatara, and that is why Krishna testifies here. So it's a matter of faith. I just wanted to underline because Shankaracharya, true to his tradition, right? He don't want to comment something which is mere matter of belief. He clearly calls that out. So this is why, because of this Shukla Gati, a lot of people chant this Bhagavad Gita when somebody is departing, hoping that they will get the Shukla Gati.
Rajesh ji, when you have the will to go, like all those yogis and all, so Krishna being God, why he did not choose to leave his body the way it should be? Instead, he was killed by, an arrow was shot on him, right?
Mhm.
Why was that? Why God has to go through that?
No idea, right? The avatars, they can decide because they are not bound by karma. So they have the choice of choosing what they want to do. Probably he may want to give a message, because
That's what I want to understand. What kind of a message a God can give?
I don't know. Like, I'm reading Bhagavata, so I have never read that original portion of that Bhagavata. I will
Okay.
read and let you know.
Sure, thank you.
Yeah, because how Krishna.
So that has been on my mind for a long time. I don't get answers for that.
No, I think lot of people, means, if you think about the how these avatars go, a lot of them have terrible death. Krishna is one example. Christ is another example. Even Rama was, it was at least his will. But there are a lot of avatars who had to go.
Lakshmana was also his will, right?
Yeah, it's his will. Rama, Lakshmana, Bharata, all was their will. But Krishna had a terrible, means and actually he was inviting this Nishada, right? It was his will. He wanted that way. So, any questions on this topic? I know this topic is a little bit heavy, and it is not, unlike any other chapter of Bhagavad Gita, this is not something that we can directly relate with our life or our practices. So just understand these few verses, and we will come back to the other verses very soon, because Krishna has taken a diversion. He will come back exactly where he left.
What does Vigraha mean?
Vigraha means the Visheshena Grahayate iti. That is the detail. Because, for example, if you take a flag has an embedded meaning. It has a special superimposed meaning. Typically, if you really look at a flag, it's a piece of cloth with a particular color. But in that piece of cloth, you attribute a special meaning. That is what is Vigraha. So there is something special attributed to that. In South India, during these puja, right, what they do, they take, what is that, Poonaji? They take and create a Ganapati. Take a piece of
turmeric, manjal.
Yeah, turmeric. They take a little bit turmeric and they imagine that it is Ganapati. So that is where it turns into a Vigraha. You're attributing something special to something ordinary.
Yeah, it's very auspicious to pray to that Ganesha, especially even on Ganesha.
That is a pratika.
You should also keep this.
Yeah. That is a pratika. That is a classic example of pratika. You take a turmeric and attribute Ganesha to that. So that becomes a Vigraha and that becomes a pratika.
So is Sivlinga a Vigraha or a pratika?
Which one?
Sivlinga?
Shivalinga is a pratika. It is a Vigraha as well as a pratika, because Shivalinga means it's a form. In that form, you attribute something special. And that is why it is a Vigraha. And that is, it is also a symbol. It is a pratika also.
So can we call Shivalingam a pratima and a pratika?
It can be called as a pratima also, because it's as a form.
Because when you pray to Om Namah Shivaya, you are imagining the Shiva's Rupam or the Shivalinga's Rupam?
When you, ideally, per the strict definition, when you, means they say pratima, it has hands and legs and limbs and everything. A human form. But it can be also a pratima. But pratika means Shivalinga do not have any shape. So it is like a pratika. So that's why it is called as a pratika. Salagramam is considered as a pratika. This Ganesha you create with the turmeric, it is considered as a pratika. Whereas the form of Ganesha with all these tummy and all his elephant face, that is a pratima. But have you ever thought of this dhyana shlokas? These dhyana shlokas are for pratima.
Pratikas, right? Or
Yeah,
pratima.
pratima. You can brilliantly compose the dhyana shlokas.
I know a lot of Tamil ones, but I don't.
Yeah, Tamil and Sanskrit. Even Rama, right? Dhyayet ajanubahum, like his arms are long, strong. Sanusham, like it talks about his hair. It talks about Padmasanastam. He say like I'm meditating Rama who is sitting in the form of in the Padmasana. Like all those details are given. Sintura Aruna Vigraham Trinayanam. People chant it blindly, but
yeah, correct. But the Dakshinamurti, in the Dakshinamurti Stotram, there is
that is a
Dhyana Shlokam. Yeah,
it is
that
a
is a
pratima.
Pratima. Okay.
Pratima, the Dhyana Shlokam tells a very young teacher. That is what the Dhyana Shloka tells. A very young teacher with shining face talking to extremely old disciples. That is the picture you get from Dakshinamurti.
Most of the pujas you keep a coconut and then you keep suparis and you avahan the gods into it, right?
Yeah, that is pratika. That is
and
pratika.
the kalasham with water. That is exactly. A pratika, right?
Correct. That is pratika.
Right.
Excellent.
This is the real things behind all these practices. Okay. So any other questions?
Yeah. If anybody else don't have any question, I have this question which has been we have addressed this earlier, but now that you brought the topic in the beginning of the topic, I had this question. When you say that a person in coma, before he goes to coma, whatever state he is in, is that what he's going to get in the next janma?
Absolutely, because means imagine there's a meditation to imagine your last moments. What would be the best cases we can imagine for all of us?
Pray to the Almighty. Think of a pratima or a pratika. That
you might be lying in a bed, surrounded by loved ones, and naturally you might be passing away because of some medical condition.
Correct.
And in the modern times, if you are in a hospital, what is that medication you get?
Morphine, right?
Morphine. You get morphine. So how is it possible for you to think anything?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. So I remember my sister-in-law who was in hospice. And even at the last stage, we had seen her passing away. So with the morphine and everything, suddenly she'll get up and say, I want to see TV. And then suddenly she'll say, I want ice cream. And then she'll go back to that state. I used to wonder what triggers those kind of things.
I don't know. It could be the samskaras, but the gati will be determined by the predominant vasanas at the end. That's it. Because remember, who is traveling? Subtle body. No, not Atma. Subtle body. The soul. The soul, what exactly the soul is going to? For example, right? 10 years back or 15 years back, I was, let's say that 10, 15 years back, I was almost addicted in cricket. So on weekend, what would be my first priority? Go and watch cricket. Now, let's say that I picked up an interest in American football. Where do I go if I get an opportunity? Football. So the soul, during my beginning days, I was interested in going to bar or parties. But now I'm more into spiritual. Naturally, that is where the soul will go. That's all it is. What is my current state? I will go there.
That's a beautiful analogy.
That's a simple explanation. So some people think that I can develop that, I can do all the nonsenses till the last moment, and I can suddenly pick up an interest in spirituality at the last moment. And such people conveniently quote Ajamala's story. It will never happen. And that's why I quoted that Krishna's verse also. Krishna told what? Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu.
Aleshu.
It's not that antyeshu kaleshu. He didn't say that. And how can this be misinterpreted that much? That is the pathetic stage. That is how the scriptures are getting completely opposite meaning people give. So, excellent. Any other questions?
Rajeshji, I was looking at the project self site, I mean the YouTube it's in one of my subscriptions. So I was looking at it and I'm actually searching for chapter 1. It's not there.
No, actually that is in Project Gita. I'll send you the link.
Can you please?
Yeah.
I know you had sent a lot of PPTs of those days,
Yeah.
but now that you are doing the deep learning, I thought maybe you'll have a better version.
Yeah, we have better version.
Thank you.
Definitely. Mhm. Okay. Anything else? Excellent. Okay. So
Interesting. Very nice topic.
nice topic. Thank you. We'll see on Thursday with